Few people in the tennis world can say they've had a rise like Carlos Alcaraz, especially in his breakout year of 2022. He's been phenomenal and has translated his superb ball hitting into big wins and trophies. The Spaniard youngster still has a lot to play for, but today we'll be taking a look at a rare loss and his reaction after the match. Let's get started. To begin, Alcaraz's brutal admission. One of the major reasons behind Alcaraz's success has been the fact that he's surrounded by people who tell him the truth as it is. There's no sugarcoating it. He doesn't downplay his massive wins. He enjoys the moment as much as he should, and he takes losses on the chin. That much has been evident from every single post-match interview that we've seen of the Spanish sensation, and we genuinely think it's the biggest reason behind his success. If you can admit in the heat of the moment that you weren't good on the day, or just how much a result means to you, then you truly can conquer anything. That was exactly what the crowd experienced after Carlitos lost against Tommy Paul in his Canadian Open debut. He said it as he felt it, and that's something so special coming from someone who just turned 19. The lad's a teenager, for crying out loud, but he's still so composed, so honest to himself, and such a hard worker. No wonder he's getting compared to the biggest names of the sport. In the hours after the match, Alcaraz revealed that he'd felt the pressure for the first time and just couldn't handle it, and that was super true. Carlitos was coming into the tournament as the number 2 seed, and it was his debut. We can definitely cut him some slack, but that's the thing. He needs to know that there's no pressure on him. All of these matches are a learning curve for a talent like him, and it's so important to experience these losses from a winning position, as Alcaraz squandered a break and a set lead against Paul. This experience will be worth a lot more than the trophy. But what went wrong with him? There's no denying that it was very unlike Alcaraz to lose the match from such a position. While one would say that we clearly haven't seen enough of him to say that, but his first impressions have been fantastic, and we'd like to think that this game was a mere blip rather than some cause for concern. After all, he's due a bit of a burnout after the number of matches he's played this year, and he's only 19. He's got at least 12 to 14 plus years left in him. Playing against Paul, Alcaraz started pretty well and was on the front foot from the get-go. Paul, though, looked solid as ever and forced a tiebreak in the first set, which went the Spaniards' way after a gruesome 67 minutes. In the second set, Alcaraz zoomed ahead and took the lead by 4-1 and was 2 games away from registering a place into the next round, but Paul had different ideas. The response from the American was superb as he took the next 5 games in a row, capitalizing on Alcaraz feeling the pressure, and won the tiebreak to level the game and force a decider. In the final set, though, Alcaraz looked tired and almost felt like he didn't have enough left in the tank to challenge the 25-year-old. Paul once again forced the issue and took control of the match before closing it out in superb fashion with a 6-3 win. Alcaraz was left ruining the missed chances, but he wouldn't be too hard on himself because he knows that all this was a one-off result, and he's much better than the way he turned up in Montreal. And what's next for our wonder kid? The defeat shouldn't be a huge problem for Carlos Alcaraz because tennis keeps on coming thick and fast, and he'll get plenty of opportunities to put things right. From next week, the race for the crown in Cincinnati will begin, and Alcaraz is expected to take part in it. Although the team faces a big question. Do they play Alcaraz and risk him going deep in the tournament, which would mean he's not in perfect shape for the upcoming US Open that begins at the end of the month? Or do they decide to play in the Western and Southern Open, hope for a deep run from Carlitos, and sit out the Winston-Salem Open? We'd be hoping they'd play in Cincinnati, as it'll be a great experience for the youngster, and he can also get a huge boost in the race to Turin. Everything at this stage is a bonus for Alcaraz, and he can truly take the ATP by storm if he keeps on playing the way he is. A bit of a rest after the Western and Southern Open would put him in the perfect frame of mind ahead of the US Open, a tournament where we expect him to do great things. He seems to be a much better player on somewhat slower courts, and warmer conditions wouldn't be an issue for someone who grew up in Iberia. His fellow countrymen and the most successful male player in Grand Slams, Rafael Nadal, also enjoyed a lot of success in Flushing Meadows, and he's got a similar profile to Alcaraz. It'll be interesting to see how he can go in the US Open, especially with Novak Djokovic set to miss out on the final slam of the year as well. In other news, first up, Alcaraz chasing a sensational record. Carlos Alcaraz is the current world number 4. He's just 19 years old, and that's about as crazy as it can possibly get. Not in his wildest dreams would Alcaraz have imagined being at this point, this early in his career, but this is reality and it's happening, and somehow it could genuinely get even better. From this point onwards, the Spaniard is potentially chasing a year-end #1 ranking, and it could actually be a reality if he keeps up the performances he's produced this year. Alcaraz has only 3 tournaments and points to defend. There's a decent chance that he doesn't play in the Winston-Salem Open, and that would be a big blow to his ambitions, but if he can string together a good run in the Cincinnati Masters, then he could actually give himself the perfect platform to go for it. But the US Open remains possibly the biggest issue for the youngster. He had a terrific finish as he made the quarterfinals at Flushing Meadows last year, which means he'll have to defend those points and possibly try to go better. But the US Open isn't an issue. It could genuinely be an opportunity too. The last 2 times someone other than the big 3 won a Grand Slam, it was here in the US Open. And with Djokovic out, there's no reason why Alcaraz shouldn't think about going all the way in the tournament. And for his #1 ambitions, Alcaraz doesn't even need to win the Grand Slam. A semifinal finish followed by a couple of decent post-US Open results would put him in the driving seat because his opponents have so many points to defend. Next up, Kyrgios finally beaten. Ever since the start of Wimbledon, Nick Kyrgios had only lost 1 match, and it was the final of Wimbledon. He'd been on a fabulous winning streak, not only in singles but also in the doubles. However, all that has finally come to an end, and boy, was it a thriller to watch. Hubert Hurkacz, the Polish superstar, defeated Kyrgios in 3 sets in the quarterfinals of the Montreal Open, and it was a hard-fought match before Hubert clicked into 4th gear. Hurkacz started well too, but needed the tiebreak to get a lead over Kyrgios, and the Australian returned the favor after taking the 2nd set tiebreak. But in the end, it felt that Kyrgios just didn't have the energy to match Hurkacz's impressive ball hitting, and his brilliant run came to an end. After all, he'd been looking more and more tired in the last couple of games. It's a wonder that he managed to defeat the world #1 and fellow Australian Flash, Alex de Minaur, and reach the quarterfinals. But he'll be back, and we think he'll be in much better touch in Cincinnati. Lastly, Nadal's return to Cincinnati. Rafa Nadal has found the perfect way of timing his returns. After managing to maintain his fitness for each Grand Slam, he's now set to make a return to Cincinnati to get in shape for the US Open, which begins on the 29th of August. The 4-time US Open champion will be hoping to make it 23 in the Grand Slam rankings after Djokovic cut the gap to 1 following his triumph at Wimbledon. And he'll definitely be the favorite too. While the US Open remains one of the toughest and most taxing Grand Slams of the year, it also means an upset here and there is very much possible. Let's see if someone can upset Nadal or whether he'll just steamroll to another title. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Alcaraz is a future world #1? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.